She was staring at her exam paper, the clock ticking louder in her ears than it did on the wall. It was the last final of the semester, the one class that could make or break her scholarship. Her pencil shook in her hand, not from nerves, but from the strange feeling that something was about to happen. The quiet hum of the classroom was broken only by the scratching of pens and the shuffle of papers. Yet deep inside, she felt like the world outside those windows was holding its breath. Then, without warning, glass shattered. A thunder of boots, a rush of air, and in an instant, men in black uniforms stormed through the windows. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, their movements sharp and practiced. Gasps filled the classroom as students froze, caught between fear and disbelief. These weren't ordinary soldiers, these were Navy SEALs, the kind you'd only expect to see in movies or on the news. Everyone looked around, expecting the intruders to call for the professor or maybe drag someone out at random. But instead, all their eyes turned toward her. The leader, tall and steady, raised his hand and spoke one word that silenced the chaos. "Falcon." She blinked, confused, the name echoing in her ears. Falcon. He couldn't mean her. She was just a student. Exhausted, running on too much coffee and too little sleep. But the way they looked at her like they had been searching for her all along made the air feel heavy. Her classmates stared too, as if she had been hiding a secret all semester without knowing it herself. Her heart raced. Why her? Why now? The Navy SEALs weren't here by accident. They had come for something bigger than finals, something she wasn't sure she was ready to face. And as the leader reached out his hand, she realized her life was about to change forever. But what exactly did they want from her, and why call her Falcon? Her fingers tightened around the pencil until it nearly snapped. She wanted to ask what was happening, but her throat felt locked. The whole room was frozen in disbelief, students wide-eyed. The professor clutching his desk as though it might explain something. The words still echoed inside her head. Falcon. Why would they call her that? The leader of the Navy SEALs stepped closer, his boots crunching over shards of glass. His presence filled the classroom, calm but commanding. He studied her like he already knew everything about her, like this wasn't a mistake at all. She shook her head, trying to piece together memories, wondering if her life had somehow been leading to this moment without her realizing. She thought of her father, who disappeared when she was young, leaving behind only whispers and half-truths. Her mother never spoke much about him, except that he had worked for the government. Maybe that explained the strange men who sometimes watched from across the street when she was little, or why her family always moved just when she started. To feel settled, could it be connected? Could this Falcon name have something to do with him? The room's silence grew heavier as the SEALs seemed to wait for her reaction. She tried to speak, but her words stumbled out. You must be mistaken. I'm nobody. I'm just the leader cut her off with a single shake of his head. You're exactly who we've been looking for. His tone wasn't cruel, but certain. Like he carried knowledge she wasn't ready to hear. Her classmates whispered nervously, some leaning forward, others shrinking back. To them, it looked like a scene out of a movie. To her, it felt like the ground had cracked open beneath her. The SEAL extended his hand again, steady and patient, waiting for her to choose. And in that moment, she knew that taking it would mean stepping into a world she never asked for, one filled with secrets. Danger and answers she wasn't sure she wanted to uncover. Her pulse pounded so loud she could barely hear the murmurs spreading through the classroom. The SEALs stood like shadows against the broken windows, their rifles lowered, but their presence impossible to ignore. Every instinct told her to stay seated, to cling to her exam paper and pretend none of this was real. But something in the way the leader's eyes locked onto hers made it clear ignoring them wasn't an option. She remembered small fragments of her past, the kind she had always brushed aside. late-night phone calls her mother would take in another room. A locked box hidden in the attic that she once found but could never open. The strange coded letters that arrived in the mail years ago, letters her mother destroyed before she could read them. She thought all of that was behind her, just quirks of a family with secrets. But maybe those pieces weren't random. Maybe they were all pointing to this exact moment. The man's gloved hand remained steady in the air. "Falcon, time is short," he said, his voice low but firm. "We need you to come with us now." Her stomach twisted. She wanted to ask why, but the look in his eyes told her the answer wasn't simple, and maybe not safe to hear in front of everyone. The weight of her classmates' stares pressed against her. To them, she wasn't just a stressed student anymore. She was suddenly someone with a hidden life, a hidden identity. She forced herself to breathe, her mind racing. If she stood up, she would be walking away from everything: her finals, her friends, the life she thought she knew. But if she stayed, she had the sinking feeling the SEALs wouldn't leave without her. The decision hovered over her like a storm cloud, waiting to break. The room felt smaller with every passing second, the air thick with fear and confusion. She could hear her classmates shifting in their seats, whispering, their voices sharp with panic. Even the professor, usually unshakable, seemed powerless, his hands trembling as he tried to calm the students. But nothing could soften the reality. Navy SEALs had come crashing through their windows, and they had come for her. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor as she finally stood, the sound slicing through the silence. The leader's gaze didn't waver, as if he had been waiting years for this exact moment. She tried to steady her breath, but her chest felt tight. All she wanted was to disappear, to melt back into the ordinary life she knew, but her every move seemed to push her deeper into something extraordinary and dangerous. Then, faint at first, she heard it. A low rumble outside, like engines approaching fast. The SEALs tensed immediately, their calm replaced with sharp alertness. One of them muttered into a headset, his voice clipped and urgent. Whatever was coming, it wasn't part of their plan. The leader's hand dropped to his side, his jaw tightening. "They found us," he whispered, almost to himself, but she caught the words. A chill raced down her spine. Who was they? And why would anyone be chasing a team of Navy SEALs into a college classroom? The glass fragments on the floor rattled, as the building seemed to shudder from the force of something outside. Students screamed, ducking under desks, papers flying into the air. The SEALs formed a protective circle around her, their weapons ready, their movements sharp and rehearsed. Her heart hammered, louder than the chaos around her. She didn't know who the SEALs really were or why they called her Falcon. But one thing was certain: the danger wasn't waiting for answers. It was already here, pressing at the doors. Seconds away from breaking in, the doors to the lecture hall shook violently, as if someone or something was trying to force its way inside. The students screamed again, scattering for cover, while the Navy SEALs moved in perfect unison, rifles raised, forming a barrier between her and the threat outside. Her pulse was wild, her knees weak, but every instinct told her she was standing at the center of something far larger than herself. Then came the sound, sharp, metallic, unmistakable. Not just engines anymore, but the clank of armored vehicles and the echo of boots on pavement. Whoever was outside wasn't just a random threat. They were organized, armed, and determined. The leader of the SEALs glanced toward the window, his jaw tightening. "They shouldn't be here," he muttered, his calm finally breaking. Before she could ask what he meant, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the room into near darkness. Gasps rose from the students, some sobbing in the shadows, the glow of their phones the only light. She could barely make out the outlines of the soldiers around her, their movements quick and silent. And then, from the darkness, a voice cut through the chaos, smooth, cold and deliberate. "Falcon," it called, not from the seals, but from the other side of the door. The way it spoke her name sent a shiver racing down her spine. Whoever this was, they knew her too. The SEAL leader's eyes widened, and for the first time, she saw fear in him. He motioned to his team, urgency flashing across his face. "We're out of time," he said. Her chest tightened. If the Navy SEALs had come to protect her, then who was outside? And how did they know the same name the SEALs had given her? The pounding at the doors grew louder, each slam threatening to burst them open. Trapped between two forces who both seemed to know more about her life than she did, she realized the truth. This wasn't just about being Falcon. It was about choosing who to trust before the doors gave way. The smoke cleared slowly, settling into the shattered classroom like a heavy fog. The gunfire had stopped, and the only sounds left were the crackle of broken lights and the faint cries of students scrambling outside. She coughed, her eyes stinging, searching for the men who had pulled her world apart in a single afternoon. The SEAL leader was still by her side, his uniform torn, but his focus never left her. "You're safe now," he said, though his eyes betrayed the weight of everything unspoken. Across the room, the man who had called her name through the chaos was gone. "Van?"